right, welcome to the wrestling edition of the Huddle. We're going to be talking about the West Branch sectional this week. I'm Review Sports Editor Mike Brown. We're joined by our wrestling guru, Bob Steer. Bob, welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
It should be an exciting week. The West Branch wrestling sectional is always one of the better ones in the state, and it looks that way again.
Absolutely. The West Branch sectional, years ago it was considered one of the weaker sectionals. But over the last few years with the additions of, the Crestwood becoming the power that they've become,
and Canfield
with the strength they have. So it's truly become one of the top sectionals in all of Ohio.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the team race first, Bob. I mean, obviously, West Branch has that comfort zone. They're at home, and they've won a lot in the past. They didn't win last year. I believe it was it Canfield or Crestwood that won last year. And you've got probably those same three front runners this year. Is that how you see that?
That's the way I see it. Yeah. I think there's a pretty clear. Crestwood, I think it would be the favorite at this point. Just the top to bottom firepower in their lineup, I think. But Canfield will give them a strong challenge for first. I think they'll be a solid second. I see West Branch third right now.
Do you? Okay.
But anything can happen.
Yeah, it can.
An upset here, an upset there.
That's right.
And anything can happen.
Yeah, well, it should be a lot of fun. It really should. Well, let's talk about some of the top individuals for the area schools. Obviously, we've got 5 area schools there this weekend. We have the Alliance Aviators. The Marlington Dukes are going to be there. The West Branch Warriors obviously are there. They're the host school. The Southeast Pirates and the Salem Quakers. Let's start with Alliance first. I mean, who do you see as the top hopes for the Aviators to get out of there this weekend?
I think they have quite a few that can get out. Really, their big guns would be Spencer Nagy at 145, and this year Adonis Watson at 220. Adonis had a fantastic tournament at EOWL a couple weeks ago, and he's really stepped up, and I think is a threat to not only make it out of sectionals, but to get to Columbus also.
I agree with that.
And they have a couple others too. Jefferson at 20 has looked real solid this year, and was it Johnson, I think.
Okay.
Johnson is another one that,
I tell you what, Coach Shaw's done a great job with that Alliance program. That's a program that's really on the rise.
Absolutely. I mean, like I mentioned in my article a week or two ago, 3 years ago, they were forfeiting half their matches. 7 out of 14 matches they were forfeiting. They've got a full lineup now, and they've got a good lineup. They're improving on the mat along with increasing their numbers. Right.
Okay, let's focus on the Marlington Dukes. Again, like the Alliance Aviators, there's 2 guys in my mind that jump off the board as far as their top guys, but they've got some other guys that have a chance to get out too.
Oh, they do. I mean, Tony Rupert, I think, leads the field for them, and he's ranked as one of the top guys in the state with the rankings that just came out this week at 160. I think Brendan Joseph is the other one that really has a chance to make a lot of noise at 113. But they have several others. I mean, they have Marlington's had an interesting year. They had a lot of injuries to deal with, and Coach Hamilton was honest in the papers about the weight problems they had with some of their kids shuffling around. And, so it's actually been kind of hard to project where some of their kids are going to be.
That's true.
For a sectional tournament. But they've got some talent, no question.
They sure do.
And in the team race, I could see them with a good weekend, being there with West Branch and, being in that top 4 talk.
Right. And speaking of West Branch, we talked about the comfort zone. I think with West Branch, it's not so much that they look of getting sectional champions, which they will. They'll get their share. But also getting numbers out. And they usually do. Usually they're in double figures or close to it and getting guys to the district. Do you see it that way again this year?
I think they can. I think they can, definitely. There are some weights that, as we've talked, it's a tough sectional, and there are some weights where, I think they're going to have some challenges. But, they've got some big guns that, as you mentioned, will carry them. Sharp, obviously, returning state qualifier.
And Matt Steer, another one, a great freshman, one of the really good freshmen.
Another one that definitely should make it out and make some noise. And you've got 2 other returning district placers, Travis Pigeon and Schopfer at 106. So those 4, and then they have a solid lineup. So I could definitely I can see double figures making it out again.
Is Mason Hughes a guy who'll be? I know he's had some injuries this year. Is he a guy that'll be wrestling this week? If he is, there's a guy I like a lot too.
Mason Hughes absolutely is ready to go. But we'll talk in a little bit about his weight class. It's absolutely loaded.
I say a really tough weight class.
There's going to be 1 or 2 really good wrestlers maybe not make it out.
Wow, how about that? And then obviously 2 other area teams that are there that maybe haven't had the kind of years that they would like to have. But the Southeast Pirates are there and the Salem Quakers are there. I mean, and I think they've got some good individuals. So I mean, how do you see it for those guys? Is there a number you think they'd like to get out, or
Salem Salem is obviously, we'll start with them. They've really struggled this year. Cade Byland is one that jumps out. He was a finalist to the OWL. Talented young wrestler. He's only a sophomore. And beyond that, I'm sure they have a goal of getting a few more. Yeah. But like I said, they're in really into a rebuilding phase right now. Yeah, right. And they're struggling, but they do. The first step, as we mentioned with Alliance, they've got to get their numbers up.
That's right.
And they're still in that process.
Sure.
So I think they're a couple years away from being where they want to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
As far as Southeast goes, another team that's rebuilding. Yeah. Traditional Power has really struggled the last couple years, but they have a couple really talented young wrestlers, Brett Bailey and Hunter McPeak. Yeah. I think Bailey's at 32, McPeak's at 45. Yeah. Both those guys, I expect to have strong sectionals and to really challenge district next weekend.
Boy, when you think of Southeast Wrestling, the last name Bailey, there's so much success out there with that name. So I'm sure that's another in a long line of successful Baileys. So. Yeah. Well, let's talk about some of the best individual matchups that you see. Maybe like the top 3 or 4 individual matchups in the tournament, Bob. Any that jump out at you?
Well, I'll tell you, I'll jump right into 160 because 160 is absolutely loaded, and there's a strong local flavor to it also. Of course, we have Tony Rupert, as already mentioned, from Arlington. He reads the pack. But you have Jordan Radich from Howland, who beat Mason Hughes 1-0 at the OWL to take that championship. Very talented wrestler. You got Ricky Coleman from Crestwood. Another talented top 20 state-ranked wrestler, Anthony Audi from Poland. The Audi name has been around for a few years now. Very talented, and Mason Hughes. Yeah. There's 5 right there, and I'm sure there's a 6th one that could sneak in there. So that, to me, is by far the deepest weight class of the sectional.
And only 4 get out.
Only 4 get out. And like I say, there's 5 talented wrestlers I just listed. So beyond that, there's an interesting Schopfer from West Branch has wrestled Janetti from Poland several times. And Janetti's had his number. Schopfer's been real close a couple times. It was a close match at EOWL this year. It was a close match at District last year. Of course, Janetti beat him in the go-to match. Janetti was a state qualifier. And Chase Krieger, locally, is another one that would be in that weight class that, will make some noise. Yeah. As far as other top matchups, Travis Pigeon at 120 and Corey Frost from Canfield. Those 2 wrestled in the finals at EOWL, and they're probably going to see each other in the finals here again at sectionals. And this should be a great match. And Jefferson from Alliance is also in that class. And Jefferson gave Pigeon a very good match earlier in the year. So I can see, some great matches there. Yeah. 126 Steer and Polis from Giorgio Polis from Canfield. Another great rematch from EOWL that we can see. Just looking down the list here, Spencer Nagy, a kid from Crestwood, Roble. Yeah. I know he's a pretty talented wrestler, and McPeak from Southeast is also in there. So there's going to be some good matches there. Beyond that, I think there's obviously going to be some good matches, but those are the ones I'm going to be keeping an eye on. Right.
Well, it should be an exciting weekend, and we hope to see everybody out there this weekend. If not, make sure and come back next weekend. Bob and I will have a district wrestling preview next week, and also a state wrestling preview the week after that. But hopefully we'll see you out at the sectional wrestling this weekend, and if you see us, stop and say hi.